You deserve to have the best physical, mental, spiritual, Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. I'm your host. Just having a blast with these podcasts. I just kind of always thinking of different subjects if I don't have a guest, of course. But I'm going to get into the mental side a little bit today. But kind of want to just first touch upon just some cool stuff. You know, when you get old like me, you kind of you put more thanks and opportunities to reunite with people that you've spent some time with in your past. And I ran into we actually reached out to him to get some tickets for the game, but of course he's a running backs coach for the Orlando Storm. So it's a UFL team. They just they had a playoff game yesterday that was in Daytona. They had to play in Daytona because a lot of soccer World League stuff is going on, and the World Cup. Sorry. I'm thinking of football, World Cup, American football. So the World Cup of soccer is going on down in Orlando. So their field that they would normally have their home games on was being used by some teams. So they had to play in Daytona at Bethune-Cookman Stadium there in Daytona Municipal Stadium, I believe it's called. And it was a pretty cool experience. It was my first UFL game, and he got a sideline passes, pregame, of course. And so I walk out there, and Art Valero is the guy's name, and he's coached many years. I'll give you the number here in a second because we were talking about how many games he's actually coached in his entire life. But he was a coach in Idaho, at University of Idaho, when I was there. So that takes me way back, and I think that's probably the last time I saw him was coming out of college. And I know since I've been out of college and in the NFL and doing things on my own in my own life for the past 30 years since college. He has been coaching, and so he's got a lot of games under his belt. And he was telling us that he believes that it was like his 639th football game as a coach that he's participated in. That is just incredible. Like he's been around a million different teams, been in the NFL. He was actually assistant head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at one point. So it was really cool to see him and just get that experience of watching UFL football. Those guys are good, man. They're big guys, real athletic, and the kickers, man. I think you should see some of the kickers in the NFL this next year. They're definitely worthy of playing at that level. The leg strength, these guys are kicking 60+ yard field goals like it's no problem, And you've seen a little bit about this last few years, I guess, in the NFL. But the UFL has an interesting rule. They made any field goal over 60 yards worth 4 points. And again, it's almost like these lower level. I call them lower level. They're not really that much lower. They're very good athletes. Clearly, it's not the NFL, but they always experiment with these different kind of rule sets. That's actually where the kickoff rule came from, the XFL. If you guys know how they changed the lineup on the kickoff and made it much safer for the return guys. They had a lot of concussions on kickoff because of the head-on collisions that these guys were doing. So they changed the rules, and I was actually part of that because I was doing some stuff for the Your Call Football. Long story. Don't want to bore you, but with regards to just what they were changing, we were experimenting with the XFL team right before COVID. Was here in Jacksonville with this Your Call Football team that I was coaching the kickers on either side. And they were experimenting with this new rule that they thought they were going to implement in the XFL, which they eventually did. So I saw it firsthand. So I thought it was a pretty cool opportunity to kind of see what they're doing. But just a cool experience being back in that, in the game. I hadn't been to a Jaguar game for quite a while since the end of the season. So it was good to be back on the field watching some real football and super cool. But, the mentality, and that's where I'm going today, is very interesting because, that there was a kicker that Matthew McCrane, who does really well for DC, which they won. They beat my Orlando Storm team because of my coach. I call them my team, but Orlando lost yesterday. So Matthew McCrane, he's one of those guys that's really good. You'll see him in the NFL someday, pretty soon probably. He's had a ton of different kicks over 60 yards for his team. So he's definitely one of the top kickers in that league. And you probably see him soon. But we had left a little early and apparently he went out there and kicked a 61-yarder, towards the end of the game that put him up by, I guess they lost by 6 points, or they won by 6 points. DC did. So it put him up by 3. or 6 at that point, because it was the last points they had scored. So super cool to see those guys out there. Just watch them in pregame, just launching these balls, punters and kickers. They're awesome. So mentally, though, that Matthew McCrane did miss a short field goal. So, it happens. I don't know if it was a bad hold, what the case may be, but mentally, we always have to kind of just be on top of things and don't panic and trust the process. As you guys have been watching me for how long we've been doing this, I always talk about that as far as trusting the process and don't overdo it. Don't try to think you have to do anymore. And today we're going to talk a lot about what I call careless confidence. Okay. And that's more like a statement saying that you don't care about what you're trying to do as far as the result, but you do, the confidence part of that is you do care about the process. Okay. And so I'm going to, and it's funny because I'll talk a little bit about some information that my South African kicker actually just sent to me on WhatsApp the other day, just yesterday actually. And I got around to reading it and I was like, wow, I was going to do a show on careless confidence today. And he actually was doing this study. He's in this protocol right now. It's like a 12-week long thing, retraining his brain. And he, in the message, said, this sounds a lot like your concept of careless confidence. I'm like, as I'm reading some of his material, and I'm going to read some of the things to you that he had mentioned. I was like, wow, I was blown away. Like, absolutely, it's exactly what I'm talking about. And so with that said, we'll take a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we'll get right into the ins and outs of careless confidence and kind of understanding where your mind can really, really help you with a lot of things in life. So with that said, we'll be right back and we'll talk careless confidence.
It is possible. It's different this time. I'm showing up for myself because now I know that weight isn't about effort alone. It's not just calories in, calories out. For years, the world told us it was simple. Eat less, move more, try harder. But science has shown us it's more complex than that. It's a real metabolic condition. That's where GLP-3 comes in. Powered by MBC 267, a naturally derived peptide complex discovered in salmon from the Norwegian Sea and select mushrooms. GLP-3 works with the body's own system to help manage appetite and support metabolic balance. No fighting your body, no forced outcomes, just support where it actually matters. Because when you address the real factors at play, progress feels possible. I'm becoming the best version of myself. This is me and GLP-3.
All right, welcome back. So I'm going to read word for word, and I'm going to read it kind of slow because I think we have to digest a couple things, and I'm going to kind of branch off a little bit as we go here. But as it starts, it says, the highest level of technical ability is not reached by thinking more accurately during execution. It is actually reached by developing the capacity to think less during the execution. I promise you that is exactly my MO with my Proform Kicking Academy. I'm teaching athletes to think less, do less, limit the motions that they're making, and simplifying the process. So that goes exactly what I'm talking about there. It goes on by saying to trust that the learning phase has done its job and that further mental involvement is now counterproductive. That's kind of what I take that as overthinking. That when you think too much mentally about what you're trying to do, you overthink the process and you get yourself out of that rhythm, and the next thing you know, you're thinking about too many things at that time when you should have been, not even thinking about originally the first time about anything negative or trying to overthink and think about, oh my gosh, what do I do here and this and that. So it goes on by saying this doesn't mean you stop learning or stop refining technique. It means you develop two different modes. A learning mode where the mind is actively involved in analysis and improvement, and an execution mode where the mind knows when to withdraw and allow the body to perform what it's already learned. That's what I say, like the habits. I'm always talking about my athletes like, hey, listen, we're in the process of creating habits. You can't care about the result, because if you care too much about the result, the habits that I'm trying to get you to do, you won't do, because you're too worried about the result. Your brain will go back to the instinctual actions it does that you've learned on your own, and unfortunately by other coaches who have probably taught them the wrong things. More or less, in football, of course, steering, steering the football to the uprights. And that's something that I don't even do. And that's clearly something that everybody thinks has to happen. But if you understand what I understand about kicking and know and understand about the process and trusting a certain a process of technique that does all of the steering for you, then you physically as an athlete do not have to steer or put power in the ball for distance or chop underneath it to get height. There's all kinds of things that kickers do athletically to get the result that everyone thinks they need to have. And I think differently, obviously, and I coach differently when it comes to the mental side of kicking, because that's exactly what we're talking about today is like, man, you gotta stop caring so much, right? So that's the idea, is to really get good at understanding the form and the fundamentals, because, and I'm teaching guys a set of form and fundamentals that actually do everything for you. There's 3 aspects to a kick: the height, the distance, and the accuracy. The form that I teach gives all 3 of those without any worry or concern about where the ball goes. Okay, so I'll continue on. It's almost over. Non-resistance. Now, I kind of label that as the insecurity or the freak out mode, like you're freaking out about something, and or maybe in the middle of the kick or the process itself, you freak out or you're insecure about, I'm not really sure if I'm going to make this as you're trying to make it. So non-resistance training develops the second mode. It trains the nervous system to become comfortable with reduced mental activity, even when something important is at stake. If you guys have watched me before, you definitely have heard me talk about how kickers, or anybody in that matter, when the pressure's on, when the game's on the line, that the reason I think a lot of kickers, or maybe a punter, anybody really, a receiver trying to catch a ball that's the reason they miss the kick or perform poorly in that situation is because they're trying too hard. They're trying hard not to make the mistake. Okay. And again, it's you have to get back to that trust and faith. It's another one I really want to throw out there. You got to trust and faith and have faith in not only yourself. And again, everything I'm saying here, you can relate to anything in your life that you're doing that has a result based on your actions, essentially. And so when you think about us, the Christians and the people who have a lot of faith in God, that's an important thing, because I clearly have faith in God, and I put my faith and trust in God. That takes pressure off me. And anybody that you talk to about that, they'll tell you the same things. Like, listen, life is tough. We're challenged with a lot of things in life. And if you don't have faith that God will help you get out of these situations, or maybe put you in those situations for you to learn. There's all these, we talk about all these prayers that people have, like, well, I prayed for this and it didn't happen. Well, you prayed for this, but God gave you a certain element of your life that will eventually get you that, right? So it's not, God doesn't respond in ways that we might think. Okay. So again, having faith is just knowing that He's there. He knows His timing is impeccable, right? His timing is right. And so when that time comes, you'll probably open up your eyes and have this big smile on your face, like, wow, I get it now. Okay, I understand that God was telling me to learn the process and giving me some education on how to eventually deal with the situation I have now. He didn't just fix it right then and there. It wasn't a miracle. His miracle took some time. Okay, and that time was Him to develop your mind and maybe your mindset and how you're thinking about the situation. And I believe me, I deal with people all day long in different situations. I've got a friend of mine who's not doing well mentally. She's not really wanting to be around anymore, and I'm talking her off the ledge, no pun intended. But it's I'm texting her every day. I'm like, hey, I got a job for you. You got to text me pictures of what you're doing sporadically throughout the day, and just put a smile on your face, and I'm going to keep tabs on you, and we're going to communicate through your day, daily basis, everything that we're doing on a daily basis. And she's got family that's out of the country now for another, I don't think, maybe like 4 or 5 days, but she's been alone essentially for like a week and a half, and so she's struggling. So I'm trying to kind of give her some faith and tell her that we all have faith, and you're put on this earth for a reason, and your life is precious, it's meaningful, you have purpose whether you know it or not. And slowly just giving her that comfort and knowing that her life is worth living. She just hasn't had very good experiences, and she's kind of down. And it's not the first time it's happened with her. She's done that sporadically to me, but I've helped her kind of rise up and get out of that dark hole that she's got herself into, thinking about stuff. She's seeing signs now that kind of tell her something about, the suicidal thoughts and things like that are kind of making, her mind run a little bit. And so those are the things we kind of have to watch out for. But, having faith and understanding that God's behind us and everything we're doing in life. And it really is a struggle for people to understand really how powerful our minds are. And that's another thing I always talk a lot about is, going back to this process and trusting this type of careless confidence. And just that just sounds right. You think about being careless about something, but you're also confident about it too. I've got friends that have, there's one particular guy I'm talking about or thinking about. I won't mention his name. You probably wouldn't mind. Kenny Spencer, he was a kicker, live coach years ago in the Arena League. He played for the LA Kiss back when the Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley from the actual band Kiss, when they bought a team in LA and went with it. So Kenny was a great guy, and he was very cocky, right? Very, very confident, overconfident. I've been to a lot of camps where I've charted him, and when they're out there, kicking for the pros and trying to get looked at, these pro camps that we do, and I think by Kenny's reactions and his mouth, not in a bad way. He's not a bad cocky guy. He's just cocky and overconfident, and I think some of the scouts kind of thought that maybe that was something that they didn't really want to deal with, because he just felt like he was just whatever the case may be. But he was good. He didn't kick out, lights out and get a job in the NFL. He did get to a training camp or a mini camp, I guess, with the Detroit Lions at one point. But he was a good kicker. I think he just got a little bit, we'll say cocky with his mouth or whatever. But I think that when you have that, and by the way, I think he did have the careless confidence, but he said it out loud in a sense. I think of a careless confidence as more of an internal type of thing. Right. Like something that's going to keep you from not overdoing it. Again, those game-winning kicks, the biggest reason why most kickers will miss a game-winning kick. Kickers are really good, right? They've always been good. Like, man, I can't believe he missed. Why did he miss? He's really good. Well, because he tried hard not to miss. He changed what he would normally do. He didn't have faith in the process. He didn't have that confidence, that careless confidence we keep talking about, right? So I think careless confidence is a huge deal. Just give a little bit more detail, and that was kind of the definition of what I was talking about with regards to what Vihan was mentioning. And one of the last sentence says, "This is why you can't unlock technical consistency with pure mechanical practice." Never could. That pure mechanical practice never could. So there's a lot of things that you're thinking in your mind, but it's how are you dealing with those good days and bad days. I've had my kicker from University of British Columbia, who's here locally. He moved up there for college, and he just finished his first year. He's back in town now, and last 2 days I've been kicked with him 2 times ago was like lights out. Like I've never seen him kick that well, and he was very confident. Now the reason I bring him up as well, and today was another good day as well. Like, man, I was like, dude, your kickoffs have gotten really good. He's like, I know, right? And he told me a story this morning. And again, this is all like really bizarre. Like, I mean, it's not bizarre. It's I guess natural stuff. But when he said, first thing I walk on the field, say, hey, how you doing? He said, Coach, I got to tell you something. It's like, wow, okay, it must be pretty important. He said, I don't know what it was, but last night, 11 o'clock, I'm in bed and I'm just laying there and something came over me and I just felt I've never been happier. He said, I just started smiling laying in bed, and it was so powerful that, and he's Christian. He went to a Christian Christian school here locally in Jacksonville, it's a private school, and raised very well. His dad is such a great dude. And his mom, his whole family is awesome. His grandpa's out there all the time. His grandpa and his dad are out there a lot. His dad's always out there, so he's shagging and stuff, but the grandpa comes out quite often. But Alex, his story was like, man, it was just so powerful. It was so powerful. I had to get up and tell my family. They were still awake. It was around 11 o'clock last night. And I got up and I just went into my mom and dad's room. And I was like, this is crazy. I don't know what's going on. I just feel just amazing. And then even kicking today, he just felt just this lifting, this uplifting sort of attitude. And he was very happy, even after he did have a couple bad kicks today. he didn't freak out like he normally would. And I keep telling him, I keep getting on him about that. And he gets, again, when you get too perfect with this stuff, and I'm kind of warning him too with this stuff, and it has a lot to do with this careless confidence stuff as well, in a sense, when you get too perfect. And like today, we usually use soccer goals. I don't use goalposts very often, but for Alex, he just likes, I like, hold the ball for him and do some things that are not normal with my normal routine. But he's kind of set that years ago, and I kind of let him ride with it. And he's, he's learning. He's still progressing, believe it or not. So we use goalposts like soccer goals. We'll just kick over a soccer goal, but that they're a little bit more narrow than, especially in college and NFL, they're more narrow than the width of the soccer goal itself. And so we're trying to determine whether that went in or what, did that go in? I don't know, man. He'd kick a ball. And in my mind, I've seen a lot of kicks, and I've used those soccer goals before with actual extended uprights on them. And I said, Alex, that was good. He's like, no, man, I missed that. I totally missed that. I'm like, what? Like, what? Where are you looking? What? But he's becoming too perfect. And I keep getting on him. I say, listen, you cannot be upset with a kick that you think barely made it or didn't make it or whatever the case may be. I said, and I remind him, I say, Alex, this is why I don't use goalposts very often. So fast forward to today, there was soccer guys out there. They were using both, and they're movable. You can move them around. These soccer goals were being used. So we had nothing to really aim at. And there's some trees. We can kind of draw ourselves a little, uprights with the trees and kick between the trees. But there was, where we were kicking today wasn't really that, it wasn't a good position. But there's these park benches. And I said, well, Alex, that park bench down there is about the width of arena football, even though I don't like that whole aim small, miss small thing. Let's challenge your brain today. And and again, I'm not saying I'm challenging you making these kicks. I want to challenge your brain into thinking you don't care if you make the kicks or not. You're aiming when you line up. The park bench is your target. But after that, when you get ready to kick that ball, your aiming is done. I said, now this is a test. We can, and like I said, he had a great day as well today. Not as good as he did the other day, but still really, really good. Like he's kicking these balls, and even with his dad snapping and me catching, which is, his dad's kind of snapping underhand, so it's not a real good live operation sort of thing. I mean, it's as live as you can get with somebody underhanding a snap and me catching it. And I'm not the greatest holder. I'll catch it and put it down. I said, give me some time, but even with, dad snapping, me turning the laces and all that stuff, he still made a lot of his kicks today. So, going back to this whole concept of careless confidence, I've lived my life like that. And again, nobody really taught me. I've kind of just grew myself. I don't know. It was kind of weird. I just kind of learned. I think it all kind of stemmed from understanding that the process that I was being taught, and in the process of learning the process, I developed a careless confidence on my own. I kind of figured, well, gosh, if I just do my form, why would I even have to worry about where the ball goes? And you can use that in everyday life. And I talk about it a lot because I think it's incredibly important, because I think people overthink themselves and they overreact to things. I've said this before. People worry about stuff that 95% of the time never happens. I don't know about the 95%. That's a number I'm going to throw out there to make myself look a little bit better. But again, I'm not a scientist here telling you that I've done all these studies and I've figured and determined. But my point is, there's a good majority of times that we worry about stuff that you look back and you're like, wow, why did I waste all my energy? And, it affects your body in a sense. You think about stress and actually, learning that what I learned in becoming a certified health coach. I didn't realize how much stress affects your body and your wellness, in your health. Stress is a very bad. I knew, it probably plays a role, but man, I'd learned a lot more about sleep, which, I knew that, again, I knew that affected your health a little bit, but I didn't know it affected it that much. A lot of things, your cortisone levels and all kinds of stuff are affected by stress and lack of sleep. And I think the whole mindset, again, throw in careless confidence right there in anything you do on an everyday basis. You throw that in there and you understand it, and you understand I'm doing this process. It might be a lifting routine or a workout routine. And that it eventually, the goal, you'll get to a certain weight and, fat percentage and all that, or diet even. Anything that you're doing in your daily life, any sort of thing that requires a process that's going to take time to develop, and then there's a result at the end that you're looking for. You can't care about the result. I'm a big fan of taking day by day by day by day by day. I don't look too far ahead. I'm not a huge goal setter. I set like a goal. Yeah, I can kind of see that in my future. This is what I would kind of like to have. I don't know if God wants me to go there. I don't know if that's exactly what I want to be. And but it's going to take day by day processes to figure out, if that goal is exactly what I thought it was, if it in fact is achievable even, so there's a lot of things that you can, if you set a goal too far ahead of you, that's another thing I think hurts a lot of people. You set an unrealistic goal, you can have all the confidence in the world, but if it's an unrealistic goal, and you fail, I mean, are you surprised? First off, now again, it's okay to fail. We always going to fail, but again, if it's an unrealistic goal, and maybe you knew that at the time, you're just trying to shoot for the stars. And so you maybe not think that the failure wasn't as bad because you kind of knew, like, well, that was a tough one. We'll see. But have realistic goals. Have kind of a mindset that kind of gets you into this day by day process where you're able to just produce positive things and new habits every day, and working on those things that eventually, when all those pieces are fit together and you're doing those pieces together perfectly, again, I'm kind of thinking about kicking in form, good things start to happen. But again, I've told you guys this, these days, kids are kind of a little bit on the entitled side. Some of them, not all of them. They think they can, of course, coaches out there that promise 10 yards further on a kickoff in one day. Those are the kind of guys that screw up these kids. Like, you can't expect to go in and kick the ball 10 yards further, tomorrow after, working out. It's unrealistic, again, in my opinion. I actually tell kids they're actually going to take a few steps back before they actually get better with the kick and the form. Okay. Cause it does, I'm breaking the form down to build it back up in a different way. Okay. That's a huge thing. And then again, everyday life. Anybody who's got an issue, like you're trying to improve yourself, whether it's your health, your wellness, your fitness, anything, your job, anything, you have to sometimes take some steps back, reevaluate, think about the things that are most important, the basic foundations of what it is you're trying to improve on, and go for it. And that's, again, the faith. So if you understand the process that you have, and the process that you're learning, and the things that you're trying to achieve, if they are challenging, you know that it's not going to be an overnight success. You have to give it time to progress. And sometimes we're impatient, and God tells us otherwise. Again, another great example, like things that you're wanting now, they don't happen. Why isn't God listening to me? I'm doing the right things. I'm praying about it and this and that. Well, God has other plans. Or maybe the plans that he has, it's a stepping stone to where you're going to be, but he can't do it right now today. That just takes some time. And plus, he wants us to learn on our own too. He gave us free will for a reason, for a lot of reasons. But I think one of the main reasons is kind of just understand us and learn. We're put on this earth for a limited amount of time. If you think about forever, right? You think about eternity, we are living in a sliver, a little needlehead point of time in a huge galaxy of whatever space, that's the kind of the reference I'm referring to. But you think about that, that's pretty impressive. Where we got a very, very small amount of time on this earth, relatively, when you think of eternity, and we want to do the best we can. Again, my friend that's going through the rough time right now, I remind her of that. I said, listen, we were put on here for a reason. We were given this gift of life, and we got to do the best we can with it. And when you're negative about things, and you're not positive, and not thinking about things in the right way, worrying about stuff when it's really not that big of a deal, in all honesty, thinking too much about what others think about you, that's a huge one. You can't do that. You have to have faith in yourself, and faith in God, and faith in knowing what you're here for. That's where the purpose comes in. Now, I've had times in my life where I felt like, man, I don't know if I have a purpose anymore after football. Believe me, you talk about, football players, and, talking about even, of course, NFL guys that play a long time, even military guys that are in the service for a long time. When they're done, they're like twiddling their thumbs, like, okay, well, what do I do now? What's my purpose now? And again, the longer you play football, you get out of it, you're like, oh, this life is going to be great. And you get out of football and you're like, well, this kind of sucks. I don't have that urgency, that urgency of doing things for people and doing things for myself and helping me, everybody out. And I don't have a purpose. What am I supposed to do now? And it's a very difficult thing for a lot of us guys. I went through it, time or two, actually. There's been a couple times in my life where I just felt like I had no purpose and I had no passion. I had to find that. Where am I going to find passion? Like, what is it that I want to do? And that, again, that's what you pray about. Pray to God about what God, what'd you put me on this earth for? and understand, where are these things that I'm looking for, this passion I've been looking for all my life, where is it at? And of course you can have multiple passions, of course, but that passions and purpose make us function a lot easier because we know we have a better idea of where we're going on a daily basis. If you have no passion or no purpose at all, it's very difficult to understand what to do on a daily basis. Where are you going to go today? Yes, your job is one thing, but a lot of people, again, that's another reason why I do what I do. I work hard. I'm trying very, very, diligently every day to, increase my business revenue and just things for myself personally, because this is all I do with, my ProForm kicking, with my Zealous Wellness, with 3 International, with, the peptide companies, things like that. Those are income streams for me, but on a daily basis, I'm putting my time into those. But I know at one point, I'll be okay to kind of chill. But I'm kind of not looking forward to retirement because I've already been through retirement. I'm retired from, and I always back that up by saying from football. I am retired from football. Okay. I'm not retired from life. I still have my life to live, and eventually I'll get to a point where financially I won't have to do as much as I'm doing now. But I think when I even get to that position where I'm financially set to do whatever I want to do, I think I'm definitely still going to be involved in something. That's what they say, if you want to find a hobby, a passion, do what you do, make a living doing that. And it's not a job at that point. It's just what you do. And I want to be that way. I want everybody to kind of be that way. I know it's not right for everyone. It's tough. It is tough. It's not easy doing what you want to do and owning your own businesses. It's not for everybody, I promise you. But that's one thing that a lot of people on this planet, they work a job that they don't like. And it's a tough thing to show up at a job that you're miserable at. And what is life at that point? And you're spending 40 hours plus a week at your work. You come home, you're not really you don't have much energy to do much. Your weekends you look forward to, and that's a cycle I just didn't want to get into. I look forward for every day because every day for me is a little different. My schedule is very sporadic, but that's what I love. I love it. I love that it keeps me motivated, keeps me challenged, and I use careless confidence in a lot of stuff that I do in my daily life too. So I hope you guys got something out of that. I think that my experience through and pretty much self-taught for the most part, as far as the mental side of things, because of my experiences, I was able to learn from my mistakes. So let me be the goat, or not the goat, but the guinea pig. That was a big difference. Let me be the guinea pig. I'm the one that's going to fail a lot, and I'm going to learn from my failures, and then I'm going to find answers, and I'm going to know, hey, don't do that because I did that a long time ago, and this is what happened. So again, I'm just someone out here on the interweb world trying to spread some advice where people could use some of that advice from a lonesome kicker from the Jacksonville Jaguars and Buffalo Bills and New York Giants. And we'll throw in that all-pro thing. I will never let that one go. That's one thing Brian Barker, my teammate, said to me the day that we were announced that we were going to the Pro Bowl. We went together for the first time, and then a couple other guys on the team. We had 5 guys go that year from the Jaguars. One thing he said to me is, he said, "Hey man, congratulations." And I said, "You too, brother." And he said, "This is one thing that nobody can ever take away from you. This will live with you for the rest of your life. So hold on to that, cherish that, and know that you earned it." And that was a really cool thing for him to say. So with that said, I hope you guys have an amazing Monday night, and we'll definitely see you guys next Monday night at 5:30 on Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. I love you all. You guys have a great night. Good night.
Thank you for watching Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.